Hi everybody, Alex Deploy here from Expert Forex, and in this video I'm going to show you how to find the most important settings for any robot. And I'm very excited about this video because this is the crux of robot trading. If you can find the one or two settings that matter most when trading a robot, it will make your job of making lots of money so much easier. Now in today's video we're going to be concentrating on the grid trend multiplier. Now I'm not going to go into how the grid trend multiplier works in a lot of detail, although that will be covered as I go through all the settings that we're going to be looking at. If you want a good background to how grid trading works and how the grid trend multiplier works, please go and watch this video on your screen right now. The link will be in the description as well as in the first commentary of this video. Please go and watch that first so that you feel more comfortable about what we're going to be doing in this video. So in this video, we are going to be looking at a process to find the settings that impact profitability the most. Very important that you understand that is the objective of this video. It is not to find the perfect setting that's going to see you through for the next 2 years or anything like that. It's to understand the robot enough to know which are the settings that are going to make you rich. So why that objective? So let's have a look at this slide. Testing can be very time consuming, and anybody who's done any optimization before knows that sometimes it can take days for optimization runs to run. Now if you can identify the key settings of a robot and you only have 2 or 3 settings that you need to optimize, that will save you an immense amount of time. Also, when you're live trading and things are going very well or they aren't going very well, you know which settings to focus on. So if things aren't going well, there's only 2 settings that you need to adjust. You don't have to go through the whole lot again. You know that these 2 settings or 3 settings impact profitability the most. And this process will also teach you how the robot works, and you'll understand how it works. You'll also be able to identify the riskiness or sensitivity of each setting. So some settings, for instance, you can get them wrong by quite a lot and still be profitable. Other ones, you can, if you 1 digit out, you could be unprofitable. So that's what I talk about settings, and you'll see a bit of that in the video. And then, as I said before, this approach that I'm going to follow now applies to any robot. So watch this, the way that I'm doing this, because you can then take any of your robots and apply the same approach. So now we're getting into the detail of the grid trend multiplier. It has a number of settings, and the settings that we're going to be testing in this video are the gap size settings, the target, the stop, the counter trend lot sizing, counter trend gap sizing, the maximum open trades, the balance between buys and sells, the targeted profit, the targeted loss, the optimum restart setting, and then the maximum open duration setting. Those are the major settings for the GTM, and we're going to be testing them one by one to see which ones of those are the most important settings. Now, how are we going to do this? I'm going to be using the I wonder approach. Now, I'll give you more details about the I wonder approach later on. And I'm going to be using tick data for all my testing. So because the grid trend multiplier runs on price levels, tick data is very important. I'm only going to be testing 1 month. And the reason for why I'm only testing 1 month is the objective. The objective is to find out which settings are the most sensitive. The objective is not to find the best settings. It's to understand how the robot works. So you don't need to test a whole year. You only need 1 month to know which settings are the important ones. We're going to be using the dual direction approach. In other words, we're going to be taking buys and sells at the same time. The single direction approach is more for advanced traders and more experienced traders. We're going to be focusing on one currency, which is the euro franc. The euro franc is one of the best currencies to trade the grid trend multiplier on. And I'm going to be using a 1 minute time frame, although it doesn't matter because I'm using tick data, so it doesn't matter which time frame you actually use. The 1 minute just gives a nice presentation of what's going on. I'm going to use a 1 pip fixed spread for the euro franc, and hopefully your broker will be in that region. Not too serious. The people that have done well in the competition have used 3 pip spreads for their euro franc trading, so you can do well with even up to 3 pips of spread. And we're going to use the maximum profit objective. So in other words, we're looking for the settings that will create the maximum profits for us. So that's why we're using that objective. I'm going to be using a $10,000 account with lot sizing of 0.01. Now why I do that is that all of our EAs get tested on that basis, so that we can compare EA to EA, setting to setting, currency to currency, and so on. So if you use the same basis, it's easy to compare results. And there's no need to use a genetic algorithm because I'm going to be using very small samples using tick data. So earlier I mentioned the I wonder approach. Again, I'm not going to explain that in a lot of detail, but as I do it, obviously you'll see it in action. And if you want more information about the I wonder approach, here it is. I have made another video which you can go and have a look at and find out all about the I wonder approach. Okay, so now I've logged into my optimization computer, which is completely different, in a different location to where I'm at the moment, but I've logged into that using AnyDesk, and that's almost like putting that computer on your own desk. And I am using a IG demo account as the platform that I use. And I'm also using a tick data suite. I think it's called BERT, but I'll go into that in a little bit more detail. And on your screen here, you can see the strategy tester. And that's mainly what we're going to be using during this session. And you can see I've got the grid trend multiplier loaded there. I've got the euro franc loaded. I've got the every tick method loaded there. And I am going to be testing over a period from the 1st of April, April Fool's Day, to the 30th of April. I'm going to be using a 1 minute period, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to use a spread of 10, which is, because this is in points, that's actually equal to 1 pip. And I'm not going to optimize quite yet, and I'm going to be using tick data, and I've got that tick. Now, the tick data suite, this will probably not be on your MT4 platform. This is a special suite. It's I think it's called BERT tick data. You can go and Google it, but it provides you with lots of sources of data. I'm using the Dukas copy, but you can see there's a whole lot of other sources that I could be using that symbol. I've got a lot of history here. The offset doesn't matter because we're not using indicators, and I've got enough data to cover the period that I'm trading. And then if we go to the tick data manager, there we are. It is the most fantastic suite here. It most probably provides you with almost 1,000 instruments that you can download. Here you can see the euro. I've got it from the beginning of 2 years ago to now, and so on. So I've downloaded all that history. You can download a whole lot of other. There's lots of specific crosses. There's everything that is tradable. There's indexes, there's stocks, there's crypto, and a whole lot of other instruments that you can get history for if you want to do back trading. Fantastic system, and if you want more, you just ask for more and it will download it for you. Important to put this not on your C drive but onto another drive because it takes quite a lot of space. Anyway, so that's the tick data manager, and why I like this particular one is it attaches itself into the MT4 platform like that, and you can see it and you can manage it from the MT4 platform, and it automatically feeds the tick data into your testing. If we then click on expert properties, it will open the testing settings, and I'm using 10,000. I've got genetic algorithm ticked. I can actually untick it. We're not going to use that. We're going to go for long and short. So here we go. So this is the testing settings for the grid trend multiplier. I'm going to neutralize as many of these settings as possible, so there'll be zeros all along. That doesn't actually matter because we're testing. We're going for manual lot sizing, and the lot sizing will be 0.01. We are enabling the GTM to do buys, and then if we go further down, we are enabling it to do sells. But here's a really magic setting. It says automatic sell settings copies from buy. So that's the one that I'm going to set for this whole exercise. So in other words, we don't have to do the settings for buys and sells separately. We only do buys and it will copy it into the sells. Very, very convenient. And then we don't have to worry about that. We're allowing re-entry should the grid close. We're allowing re-entry, and some of these settings we'll actually be testing pretty soon. And we're doing a grid level. We're doing a minimum grid size of 1. That's quite important because we're going to do quite a long spectrum. So that's the basic setup for the testing. So now, if you go back to the slide that I mentioned first, the first test that we're going to be doing is on grid sizing. And now you can test just that setting on its own, because if you don't want anything else to help you, that will work pretty well. So what we're going to do is we're going to say we want to test the gap sizes for buys and sells, and all we have to do therefore is test this particular setting. So what we're going to do is we're going to test from 1 in jumps of 2 to, let's say, 25. And when you tick that, that is what the optimizer will go and do and find the results for the settings from 1 with jumps of 2 to 25. And it will report back on, if you had used those settings, what the profitability would be. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. So I'm going to click on OK. And we're in fact ready now to do the optimization. Before I do that, I just want to run the settings that I have already to see if they run well. So I'm going to click on Start. And let's just see if we get some result from the start. And as you see, it will take quite a while because I'm using tick data. Now, what I'm going to do throughout this video, if there are sections of the video that you don't need to see, where we're literally watching the green bar moving as it is to the right now, I will cut those out and only show you the end result so that you don't have to sit and watch this activity. Especially when it comes to optimization, some of these optimizations might take a few minutes, and certainly you don't want to sit and watch the screen for a few minutes. I will edit and cut those sections out of the process. So as you can see, it's only halfway through and it's only doing one run, so the next time you see this, it will be complete. The other thing is that while it's running, you can actually still look at the graph and see how the graph is going. And the report won't be there yet, but the graph is certainly something that you can look at in the meantime as it's doing its testing. Okay, now it's completed its testing, and then what I'll do is I'll click on Report, and what it's saying is saying that it took $10,000 and created a profit of $11,000 using that basic setting that I have in there right now, which is a setting of 1. Okay, all right. So it had quite a big drawdown, 6641. The success rate was 96, and that is our base case. Now, so in other words, what we're trying to do is we're trying to beat 11,000. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll start a Excel spreadsheet to record all our testing. Okay, so here's an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm going to just say base test on 1 pip gap. So the results for that one are 11,000. So that's pretty good. It's doubled the account in 1 month. But it's had a drawdown of 661. And I'm going for the maximum drawdown. That's an important number. And what else do we need to... Oh, and the number of trades, 4070. That's an important one. And what else can we record? Now, the expected payoff is an important number, and I'm going to record that, which is 2.76. Okay, so those are the key things that we will look at the moment, and we're going to say that's the profit, that's the drawdown, that's the number of trades, and that is the expected payoff. Okay, so we're going to record the results on an Excel spreadsheet so that we know what's going on, and just a bit about the settings. And I'm just going to put in the settings. The only thing that we tested here was a gap of 1. Okay, right. So we've got our spreadsheet in place. I can close that for now, and we know that our run is working. So what we can do now is actually do the optimization. Now, if I click on optimization, it's going to look down here, it's going to find a tick, and it's going to say, oh, that's what you want me to optimize. You want to optimize 1 with jumps of 2 to 25, and it's going to do that for me. So let's do that. So we click on that and we start. So now we're doing an optimization run, but only on 1 setting. And that is what the one I wonder technique is all about. All you say is, I wonder what gap will produce the best profitability. That's all you're doing. And that's all I'm doing now. I'm saying, I wonder what gap will produce, and I'll put in some settings there, and it'll take quite a while. It's going to take most probably 10 to 20 minutes. So again, I'll stop the video, and we'll look at the results when it's finished. Okay, the testing is done, and in fact it only took 4 minutes on this particular computer. It's pretty fast, and it tested 13 versions. And to see the versions, we click on the optimization results, and you can see the 13 versions that were tested, and you can see the actual settings that were tested at the time. And we've come back to the same answer. The one gap has produced the very best settings, 11,225, and then it just drops dramatically as you increase the gap size. We now know that during this period, the grid trend multiplier was more in favor of small gaps of 1. In fact, that's the smallest gap you can get, and it generated 4,070 trades. So when testing the gaps in future, we'll most probably just test the first 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. We'd most probably test that if we tested this over with in respect of other tests that we'll do in future. So I'll haul out my Excel spreadsheet, and I'll say this was actually a test of gap size. And the profit was the same as there. I can just copy it across. And the clue that it's given us is that this, the test setting should be test settings should be 1, 2, let's say 4. Actually, it should be 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we've made some really good progress there. So this is the base case that all the other settings should improve on. If the other settings can't improve on this base case, then this is the most important setting that there is, and you should ignore all the rest. See how you can simplify your testing tremendously down to one setting. But let's see if this is the best setting. So we need to move on. So we've done number 1 on this list. We've done the gap size test. Now we're going to do the target test. So what that entails is it's going to now entail testing 2 things at the same time, the gap and the target, and to see which combinations give the best results. So let's set that up. By the way, these best settings that we have there, to put them into our settings that we are testing, you right click and you set input parameters. You click in there, and now we know that the most important settings are in fact in there. And what we can do is rerun them, but we already know there are the base settings, so we'll keep that as it is. And let's go and change the settings for testing now the targets. So the by gap size, we're no longer going to test right up to 25. We're going to test it to 3, and we're going to go for 1. So it's 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to have a look at the take profit setting. And at the moment I see there's a 4 in there. I'm going to test the take profit from 2 with jumps of 1, and I'm going to let's go till about 15. So we're going to test 2 with jumps of 1, 15. At the same time, we're going to test the gaps from 1 to 3. So we're going to get about most probably 15 times, about 45 readings from this particular test. So let's go and do that. So we've ticked that. We're going to say, please give us the results of those 45 combinations. We say OK, and we click on optimization, and we click on start. Now again, it's going to run away and do all those optimizations. The previous one tested, I think, 14 or 13, and it took 4 minutes or 5 minutes. This might take 20 minutes or so. So I'll be back with the results very shortly. Okay, the testing is finished, and it took 38 minutes to complete this test, and there were 42 items in the test. So let's have a look at the results. And if we look at the results, there's only a small improvement that was made. And if we look here, the gap size is still 1. The take profit of 5 pushed the profitability up a little bit. So let's go and record that. So this is the target test, and we pushed it up to 1137, and the drawdown in this case was slightly higher, and the number of trades slightly lower. Expected payoff was 3.38. So it has improved the statistics quite well, and essentially we're looking at a gap of 1 and a target of 5. Okay, so that's now we've tested the gap and we've tested targets. So what the big question now is, does having a stop help the result? Let's set up to test stops. So here we go. So now we know that the gap size should be 1 and the target should be 5. That's our base case now. Our new base case is that, and we are saying, what about a stop loss? Should a stop loss, now I'm going to untick these because they've already been established. Will a stop loss make a difference? And we don't know. Now in this case we want to test quite a wide range, up to about 60 pips. So I'm going to use very big steps to test such a big range. So I'm going to test actually from 5 with steps of 5, and I'm actually going to go to about, let's go to 80. So we're going to be testing whether we can improve our current results by using a stop loss. So that's the setup for this. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to run the base case again so that it's recorded in the report, because that's the number we are continuously chasing in this exercise. Okay, it's completed its run. It's confirmed the 113 number that we got from our previous optimization, and we can now start the next optimization, which is testing the stop values, if stops can add value to the existing results. So we just click on optimization because that's been set up, and we click on start. And again, what will happen is it's going to take quite a long time to run those optimization runs, and I will get back to you as soon as those results are known. Okay, the testing is finished, and it's taken 11 minutes to do those tests, and there were 16 tests. And if we click on the optimization results and sort them in profitability order, you will see that the stops have not contributed to improved profitability. However, if you look at the trend that's happened here, as the trend goes up from 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, it does suggest that 80 was most probably too low and that we should be testing a few more. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to extend this test just to make sure that we have tested sufficiently. And also, this is another test that I do, is that if the best result bumps its head against one of the limits that we've placed on the testing, then it means that our limits might be too small and we need to increase them. So I'm going to do just that. I'm going back into settings. I'm going to go back into here, and I'm going to say, oh, we stopped at 80. What we should do is we should actually now start at 80 and go on to, let's say, 130. Just for a number, and let's test a bit further, because I want to reach a point where that progression stops. In fact, we might as well go to 140 if we're going to go that far. So I'm going to run this test again, because it has resulted in a reading that hits the top of our range that we're testing. Okay, so I'm going to say okay, and we've got the optimization on, and I'm just going to rerun it for bigger numbers. So we click on here, and it will start its new test, and as before, I'll get back to you when that test is finished. Okay, the next test is finished, so let's go and have a look at the results, and we click on optimization results, and we see it's getting pretty close to the number that we've got, but it's still a progression. Look at that, a perfect progression up to that number, which means we have to go and test again with a wider range. So this is a lesson, and what I'm going to have to do is I'll go in there, go to the stop range, and we're now saying we're now going to start testing from 140. We don't have to do too many now, but I'll go to about 180 just to see if that's enough. So we do that, we click on OK, and then we start the test again, and this time just a little bit further, and hopefully we'll get to a point where the progression stops. Otherwise we'll have to test again. So let's see how the next test goes. Okay, the next test is run, and as you can see, it's getting darker here and it's getting a little bit colder. So let's have a look at those results, and we click on optimization, and we see, oh, there it started to even out, and we come to a number that's not much different to our report number. Let's have a look. Slightly, but not enough to really warrant an adjustment. So the conclusion that we can reach at this point is that the stop loss does not really help towards better results. But let's have a look at the overall results. I will enter them in our Excel spreadsheet. So let's go and do that. So we say stop loss, and its result is 11,324, and the drawdown is more or less the same, so it hasn't really made a major change. Number of trades, let's have a look, 3351, so it hasn't changed that. And the expected payoff is more or less the same. So the conclusion is that stops don't really make a major change. Even targets make a marginal change, and we are still stuck with a gap of 1 with a target of 5 being the best results. Now, we said that a target of 5 really just reduces the number of trades and increases the number of payoffs. So it actually contributes, but stop losses have not moved the number at all. So we can move safely onto the next item. So the next item is counter trend lot sizing. So let's go and test that aspect. So we go further down, we go into the settings, and we have here under buys counter trend scaling. So 0 means off, so we want to test whether 0 is good, but let's test it with jumps of 1, and let's go to about 6. So basically what that means is that counter trend scaling will kick into place if after the price has gone the wrong direction by 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. And we want the lot scaling to be tested, and to test the lot scaling we want to test positive and negative scaling. So I'm going to test from 100% positive and going down by 25% to 100% negative. So from 100% positive to 100% negative. So we're going to test that leg as well as that leg, and we don't need to test the stop element. So we're going to run those options over there and see how they turn out. So we click on OK. And again, what I'll do is I'll get back to you as soon as this optimization run is complete. Okay, the counter scaling lot sizing optimization has been completed, and let's go and have a look at the results. And we click on optimization results, and wow, look at that result. It has changed the best result that we've had to date by almost 3 times. So what it's saying is that if we do buy scaling after the first level and we use a 75% setting, that we would generate $27,000. Fantastic. Now let's go and double check that, because we set that as input. We just go and double check that. So now we've got, after 1 counter trend trade, you increase the lot scaling by 75%, and we'll say okay, and then we run it as a normal test. And because everything is on an every tick basis, I will be surprised if there's a difference between the optimization run and the test run. So let's go and have a look. Yes, there it is. And that is by far our best results so far. So let's add that to our Excel spreadsheet. So we're saying that was the counter trend scaling And the amount there was 27,340. Jeez, that is just absolutely amazing. And the drawdown is high, but as a percentage of the gain, it is still very reasonable. The number of trades right down to 30. Now that's just amazing. And the expected payoff right up to $91. So quite a jump from the previous result that we've had. And that counter trend trading was after one counter trend trade increased the lot size by 75%. So that's how that one works. So after a retracement, increases the lot size by 75%, and that is exactly why that result was so good. So let's just have a look at the graph, and you can see there's the big drawdown that happened in the beginning, not much going on, and then a really fantastic increase. There was the maximum drawdown. There's the volumes involved. You can see there's some quite big volumes involved there, and all looks good. And so we can go with that as most probably our most powerful setting for this particular EA. So let's go and check the next item. So we've done counter trend lot sizing. We're now going to do counter trend gap sizing. See if that helps. And in order to do that, let's go to the settings, and we go down this way. We say we keep that one ticked, and we now go to the gap scaling. So the gap scaling will be exactly the same, 100 minus 25. This time I'm going to do it like it was there. 25 increase until it reaches 100. Okay, do it the same as that, and then we'll just put a number in there. Doesn't matter which number it is. 25. And we can now optimize these two together and see how that goes. So we press OK, and we start the optimization. Again, I'll get back to you with the results when they're available. Okay, so the optimization run is complete, and let's have a look at the results. Okay, so these results were not as good as the previous ones. They're more or less in line with the best results that we've got. So what I'll do is let's add these to the Excel spreadsheet. These are the counter trend gap scaling, and the results here were 1 just marginally better than the other ones at the top there. The drawdown was a little bit less. Number of trades, quite a few more. And the expected payoff at $3.86. And so the best result was after one decrease by 100%. Well, that's quite a severe one, decrease by 100%. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next one. Okay, so now we're going to be testing the maximum open trade setting. So in order to do that, I go to the settings, and here is the maximum open trade setting. Click on that because that's the one we want to maximize. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at 10, have gaps of 10, and we'll go to 200. So this is going to be a very wide range with big steps. Click on OK. We click on optimization, we click on start, and as before, I'll get back to you once I have the results. Okay, that test is run, so let's have a look at the results. Okay, so the results basically show that the maximum open ticket count does not improve the results. It does put a limitation on it, however. If they are too small, the results are reduced tremendously. But on the whole, it comes back to the basic maximum amount that we have at the moment. So the maximum open trades setting does not add value to our results. Okay, so the next test is the balance between buys and sell settings. So let's go and test that one. Okay, so there are two items to be tested here: the maximum, the actual setting, and the resolution of the setting. The one says trade with the trend only, and the other one says prune the highest loss. And the maximum gap between the two, I'm going to set that at 5, and we're going to go up to, let's say, 100. See if it makes any difference. So we're going to test those. There's no other green ticks here, so we'll go straight into it, 5 by 5 to 100, and we're going to test those two options. So we click OK, and our best result is still that 27,000 that we have there. So I can go straight into the optimization right away. And again, I'll come back to you as soon as I have a result. Okay, so the maximum gap between buy and sell trades optimization has been run. Let's go and have a look at the results. And well, these results look really quite dismal. Clearly, that particular setting does not add any value to the grid trend multiplier. Okay, next we're going to test the targeted profit. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to test the targeted profit and the targeted loss at the same time. Now to do that, firstly I'm going to untick the previous test, and then here it is the targeted profit and the maximum loss settings. I'm going to test from 1,000, and I'm going to actually increase that. In fact, I'm going to make that 2,000. Increase that by 2,000. And we can go to, let's say 10,000. 10,000 for now. We'll know if we've used too small a gap. 2,000. 2,000 and 10,000. So we can check them both at the same time. And in fact, if you make this 0, that will also help us test both at the same time. Okay, so there we are. It shouldn't take too long to run. So let's see that everything's in place. We click OK. Optimization is on, and I'm going to start this run. Again, I'll get back to you when this run is complete. So then that one has finished now, and let's have a look at the results. Click on optimize results, and you'll see that the target profit or target loss has not improved the outcome. In fact, if you go down the list, if you don't get it perfectly right, it decreases the outcome. So what we'll do is we'll move on to the next item to be tested, which is the optimum restart setting. So let's go to that setting, and I'll just click on here, and we'll untick the maximum loss amount, untick the target profit amount, and go to the optimum restart setting. Now the optimum restart setting basically restarts the grid when there is an equal number of buys and an equal number of sells present in the open deals. It is unlikely that that one will have an effect, but we'll test it anyway. Okay, here it is, optimum restart minimum ticket count, and we'll restart at 3+++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++++ +1 to 10. Yes, I think that in fact is a good setting. I'll just increase the setting to about 14. 3, 1 to 14. There we go. We can actually get this one running pretty quickly. We say OK and optimize, and we say go. And let's see how that one runs. Again, I'll be back when the results are available. That test is completed. Let's go and have a quick look. And you can see immediately that this test has had no beneficial effect on the results. So we are into the very last test, which is the maximum open duration, which means how long do you keep your open deals open, and the EA will cut them off at certain days. So after 7 days it will cut off open deals, and let's see if that adds any value to the results. So we go and we unclick the one that we've just tested, and we go right down to the bottom here where that setting is. It's the maximum open trade duration setting. It's 3, 1, and I'm going to set it and 15. So yes, let's go with those. So it starts at 3, goes up by 1, and to 15. It's clicked. We can go. We say open, and we have optimization on, and we'll start that. And this is the last test. So again, I'll come back to you when this test is complete, and then we'll summarize the whole situation. Okay, the final test has run, and let's have a look at the results. And as you can see, the results are pretty close to the maximum amount, but they don't really add any value to the final outcome. So we've resolved this particular setting. So what's left now is just to summarize what we've done and conclude where we go from here. Okay, so let's have a look at the Excel spreadsheet as it is at the moment, and we can have a look here. We've identified a number of settings that have no value, they don't really add value to the overall results. We also have identified settings that are really important, like the gap size, the target size, and the counter trend lot scaling are important ones. And that's the most important thing about this exercise. That was the objective. The values are most probably less important, because we're now going to move into a next phase of optimization where we'll extend the optimization most probably beyond only April, but into longer periods, and we're going to do more currencies, more, and that if this was a different kind of time, a different kind of EA, we'd also extend that to other time frames. But our focus is now on 3 settings, and that was the objective of this whole long exercise. Okay, so what are the learning points from this long exercise? And the results should not be seen as potential settings that can be used for trading at this stage. They are just warnings that these are the important settings that we need to focus on. This is only phase 1. Phase 2 is where we take those settings and now apply them to more detailed optimization. Now, the counter lot sizing setting seems to be the most sensitive one at this stage. It needs to still be verified in many ways, but that certainly has focused our attention, that particular setting. The small gap sizing was also quite a surprise that came out of this exercise. Normally we would be looking at gap sizing of about 20 pips or so. The optimization didn't tell us that, and having small targets coupled with a small gap size seemed to be the formula if you want to have exceptional results. And then we eliminated a whole lot of settings that we don't need to worry about if we're focusing on getting optimal results. Those settings are important if you want to refine or control risk, but they do not add value to the overall results. So what can this exercise be used for? So we can use this exercise to extend our testing of the euro franc into longer periods, as I've mentioned, different approaches, that type of thing. We can now start testing other instruments, knowing that those are the 3 most important settings, and we don't have to go through the whole process that I've just gone through now. We can go almost straight into phase 2, which is more detailed optimization of our settings. And the third most important one is we now know how to manage our live accounts. We only have to manage 3 settings, and if things go badly, we just go more conservative on the settings, and if things go well, we just keep the settings as they are. So our focus is really right down to only a few settings that we need to manage. The other thing that we've learned is we've learned a lot about this EA, what makes it tick, and what makes it work, and what makes it not work, and that type of thing. So we've learned a lot about the EA. Very important to go through this process so that you can know which settings are sensitive, and you know a lot more about the EA. I must just stress that please do not use the settings that come out of this exercise for future trading. They need to be refined and confirmed by further processes. But I hope you've learned a lot from this particular process that we've gone through, and that it'll enable you to test some of your existing EAs, or even the grid trend multiplier in a lot more detail. And it's important that you build personal confidence in your testing. Important also to use tick data, high quality tick data, when you do this type of testing. So from me, Alex Deploy, cheerio.